Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk we deal with political, social, and economics here, Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Charles Thomas,
Dennis Burnside,
and
Paget Maynard.
we've got a whole bunch of stuff to cover here, but let's just briefly go back to Chicago. Over the weekend, 8 people dead, 60 shot.
Well, the thing I find most interesting about this whole thing, and we had 77, and I believe 3 dead the weekend before. The thing that I find most interesting is that in the day and age where you have cameras everywhere, you have listening devices that they set up in Chicago and other big cities to try to discern where these shots come from. You have people up and down the street on the weekends in the summertime, and you have not one arrest. I need to repeat that. You have not one arrest for any of these shootings in the last few weekends. Not one. No one's being brought in for questioning. Now, those are the facts. I speak to cats from Chicago from time to time, guys who grew up there and a couple who still live there, and they have told me they have no doubt in their mind that the police are complicit in these shootings, either through inaction or action. They always seem to happen on the weekend. They always seem to happen when the spot is hot, as they say, where everyone expects the police to be out. They always happen on holidays, and they always happen at a peak time when there are more people on the street than, say, late in the evening or early in the morning, between midnight and 6, so-called, when nothing good happens after midnight. So I don't have evidence of police involvement in these shootings, but I don't rule it out. I don't dismiss it out of hand because I know too much about American history, and I do find it very very suspicious that there have been no arrests or people even brought in for questioning. With what we have now, 143 shootings in the last 2 weekends, I find it very odd.
You were saying, Josh?
well, I just think this is in our neighborhood, and I would go as far as, like harvesting body parts, for the market, resale. It's too bad nowadays that we are a community that don't have a resolution or anything in place to protect our own community or our environment. Mm-hmm. Anybody can come into the black community and have their will, So I just think that we have to be more vigilant as a people and take matters into our own hands.
I agree with both of y'all. But the thing is that these are blacks living in this neighborhood, blacks doing the shooting and going on. I mean, what
Ostensibly doing the shooting.
What's happening to what's happening to us as a people, man? You know, we running around shooting people and going on, and some of them are, well, no job. That's like, okay, if you get 20 years old and you can't find a job here in Lansing, you have to go someplace else and find a job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to ride up and down the street with a gun shooting people because, this is my way. It's like, I mean, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah. I mean, when you got an environment, and Dennis always brings this point up, who created the barrel for the crabs? You know, when you allow someone else to dictate to you, or when you let things run this course, and without any input or without any economical support or without any leadership, and you become victimized.
Abject poverty. Abject poverty, I don't care where you are in the world, produces violence within that community. I don't care where you go. And when you compound that abject poverty with no prospect for the future, these people in Chicago, let's be honest about it, are surplus labor. They were brought to this country for labor. They migrated from south to north to become labor in the great industrial revolution of the 20th century. And once the great industrial revolution of the 20th century was either moved overseas or the need for those type of workers became obsolete, they're sitting there. And they have no educational system that prepares them. They have no trade craft that prepares them. They have nothing outside of a very minuscule economic system right there within the hood, and you've got the black church. So again, the fact that these are melanated people doing this shooting may break your heart, but it doesn't change the fact that they're human beings living in abject poverty. And when that happens, and when you have a breakdown of your community and you have a breakdown of your culture, violence follows. That's inevitable. And beyond that, it's very suspicious to me, the statistics that we see in Chicago, as we've just said.
Well,
Dennis, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say something. It's simple but profound. Poverty is not a crime. Poverty leads to crime.
Okay.
Very true.
Okay.
That was profound. I'm surprised.
But you know, I'm just trying to gather. I know, you know, I come from a place where poverty, you know, was poverty, then there was second-rated poverty, and then third-rated poverty, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when
But
I have worked for $3 a day.
But
okay?
you had your culture intact. You had your community intact.
So what?
You had your parents there.
Yeah. So what? So I'm just trying to get is that we can say all we want about the police ain't doing this, the police ain't doing, but to me, it's like, what happened? I mean, what is happening? We got fools just running around shooting at people, driving cars around and shooting at people. I mean, what?
Yeah,
I mean,
it goes back to the destruction of the black family. There's no neighborhood, there's no motherhood, there's no fatherhood. All the hoods have been depleted and destructed. And I can relate it back to the black church. The black church, if I'm a man, a little boy in my family, and my father wants me to be a man, but I see him cowing down to another man or worshiping the image of another man, when I tell my son, get up off your butt and do something, but yet and still I'm getting crumbs from another man's table, I'm not taking care of responsibility to develop my community. And there's so many leaders that have told us what our problem is economics, and I still do not want economics. I still want to suck the titty of America to get my food and my shelter, and I tell my son that he's lazy.
Back
Okay.
To, back to Ahmad. What you were saying there just now, and Charles, I hear you too. What is the role of the police in the community? Now, maybe we have to look at that, and I understand where you were coming from, Ahmad, but the police officers are there, and as far as we know it, they're supposed to keep the peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, from what I heard so far, it seems as though we're saying the police officers are not doing their job, not keeping the peace, but are very complicit, and anything else could go.
Well, okay. If we got fools riding up and down the street shooting people, a police can be on every corner. That ain't gonna stop them from shooting people. You know, so I'm just trying to get why
We have no purpose. We have no guidance.
Okay.
We drifting.
Okay.
And like I say again, our leaders that have come before us have told us that our problem is we don't have economics. We don't have structure.
Okay.
We got to reclaim that and develop our own neighborhood. We got to ask ourselves, what is First Baptist doing that the Second Baptist ain't doing? We believe in whatever coming out of religion, but if you ain't got nothing to show for it, then that means you are afraid to apply what your spirituality is telling you to apply. You can't be afraid of nobody else. You got to take care of yourself. You got to have your own gardens. You got to have a cemetery for your own people. You got to create jobs for your own community. You can't depend on another man to take care of you. That's why in the police department, they shoot at black silhouettes. They don't shoot at white silhouettes.
Okay. I'll drop that now. We look at Detroit. I was talking to a guy this morning, and we see a lot of the properties being bought by people even overseas.
Yeah.
And we got people right there in Detroit who got blacks who got money, and what are they doing with it?
I was in Dearborn this past weekend for a wedding, and I hadn't been down in Dearborn in quite a while, but the last time I was down there, it was trash.
Okay.
But now those immigrants, Chaldeans, and other people came in moving, and they getting money from the churches that the churches done put in the banks, and they developing a community, and it's a thriving community. But we won't support one another. If you opened up a store and started frying chicken, I ain't gonna buy none of your chicken. I'm going over here to this other guy's chicken place. It's that self-hate that's been built into us since slavery. We are people that we should be promoting what we've been through as a people instead of continuing to be the victim. I mean, we got something to stand up for because nobody else has experienced the pain, the suffering, the degradation that we have in the black community, and that's something to market.
Okay. And I grew up. People were telling me that when I grew up, and I told my young sisters and brothers and two kids that. Well, so what has happened now then? We what has happened now that we just at the end of the line on everything, all but crime.
Yeah. And we think
all but crime. We at the front of the line on crime.
Yeah, and we think that a Democrat cares more about us or a Republican or Democrat. They're the same people. They are for themselves.
Yeah.
And if we can't see that, or it's time to tell the truth.
Yeah.
They out for themselves. So you got to step up and man up.
Right.
Build your neighborhood up. Stop talking about other folks and do something. Don't talk about it, be about it.
I couldn't disagree more. It has nothing to do with us not being self-starters and not looking out for each other. If you don't understand the difference between Keynesian economics and this trickle-down economic system that we live in now, you'll be frustrated by the lack of progress within any community that relies on working class and middle class people. That's the first thing. The economic engine has been crippled. The wealth that was built by black and brown people in this country for decades after the end of slavery, built cities, built towns, built colleges, built universities.
White houses.
Built. Well, I'm not talking about the labor involved and the intellectual properties involved, including the engineering and architecture that built the White House. I'm talking about all black communities. We had the same capability then that we have now. So what's different now? We live in a different economic time. We live in a system that's deliberately set up to stifle and suppress the ability of working class and poor people to arise. And if you don't recognize that, then you'll turn around and say, it's our fault. We don't have the initiative. We don't want to buy our chicken because we hate ourselves. There might be some of that, but the bigger issue is the way the economic system is set up now. And you just don't have the wherewithal to create another Black Wall Street, to create another all-black Harlem Renaissance, or any number of communities that thrived, that were the envy of their white neighbors, and we don't know our history, so we don't know that they even existed. So the idea that we just don't have the wherewithal and we're complacent and we don't love each other enough to develop our own economic independence is misplaced. It's not true.
We don't trust one another neither.
Look,
I don't agree with that.
Look right out here. Look right out here. And
what system do we live in? As I look out there, what am I looking from what perspective?
Man got a chicken place down here on South MLK, you know.
The crack chicken place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People line up, blacks line up to go there.
Yeah. And they taught them how to fry the chicken.
They taught them how to fry the chicken, but I mean, that's what.
Do you know if a black man or woman with that recipe ever tried to go to a bank and get funding to buy property and set up their building? Do you know that?
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm asking the question. Do you know that?
But see,
Because if you don't know that, you're making assumptions, and that's no different than Bill O'Reilly and Fox News.
But that's the problem. We got to create our own economics. You
Well,
shouldn't have to go to
again,
them.
Chuck, yes, we do.
Yeah.
But don't describe that as apathy or ignorance or
It's
self-hatred.
ignorant. It's ignorant.
It's not.
That's
It's
the
not.
Bible.
It's ignorant. That
Okay.
you out
Okay.
here lining up.
Why do we do it? Why do we do it for decades then, and all of a sudden we stop? Why?
Okay. That's just
Because
like,
I'm assuming we hated ourselves before,
Yeah.
and we had apathy before, and we didn't have mothers and fathers in the community before, right?
yeah.
No, we did. We had mothers and fathers in the community. We weren't apathetic. We were self-starters. What changed?
We apathetic.
We the same
you know.
people. What changed?
You know, go ahead.
If you don't look at the bigger picture, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to blame each other.
But that's the problem.
You
because
riding around, shooting each other,
Yeah.
your pants
But
hanging
look,
down, you
you-
hate each
you-
other.
yeah.
Like, that's
If so-
not why.
If,
Stop it.
If
It's not
somebody,
why.
if somebody been treating you like white folks been treating us, why you want to deal? Why can't you just isolate yourself and take care of your own business?
That ain't the question on the table. The table is why you don't do that.
Psycho-
Not that you should do it. Why doesn't it happen, Chuck?
because of fear.
It's not fear. You've seen your ancestors do it right here, man, under
Yeah.
Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Well, then
And
what?
fear.
Why we're not doing
Because
it
we
now?
live in the age of corporatism. We live in the age of redlining. We live in a way of de-investing in education. Look at the schools,
Okay,
man.
well,
I
so-
talked to
but-
a kid Saturday, man, on another context, and I said, hey, man, where'd you go to high school? He said, I went to Osborne. Osborne doesn't even exist anymore in Detroit. You could go on down the line, man.
Man,
It's a different economic
when-
system, and it's suppressing
when
and
I-
it's frustrating
when-
our ability to be
when I-
independent.
when
But they destroyed the school system in Detroit intentionally. It was a benchmark for a lot of educational.
Yeah. We know that Cass Tech was a great school.
Yeah.
Cooley was a great school. So is that apathy? Is that mom and daddy not getting along to cause that to happen, or is there something else going on?
Okay.
And if something else is going on, let's talk about that instead of blaming each other.
Yeah, I
but
understand
see,
what you're saying, Blake.
see, man, we have to take some of the blame. Simple
Right.
as that.
Yeah.
You know, we have to take some of the blame. You know, we
And
can't keep. Oh no,
Come up with
this is,
excuses. That's like Trump blaming everybody else.
yeah.
You know,
it's like,
we generating the problem.
yeah. You know,
And
it's
I
like
can
Next
trust.
on Fox News, Sean
you know.
Hannity.
I mean, hey, you know, it's like if we go along what you're saying, man, it'll be another 1,000 years, and we'll still be right where we at now.
No, well,
Yeah, we will.
1,000 years?
Yes, another 1,000
I wonder
years.
why. Why would it take 1,000 years
Right,
and we're
right,
still
right.
at the
Because
same place?
The
because
United States ain't 1,000 years old, bro.
I'm saying that it'll be 1,000 years, another 1,000. It'll be 1,000 years before we
So
can
what's
do
the
anything.
prescription then?
I mean,
what's the prescription?
I'm just laying. I'm just saying what we not doing, and you know,
What we should be doing.
yeah, that's all I'm saying.
You know, we should be bringing the education back to the community. That should be the primary objective. You know, we got a lot of intelligent people, especially black women out there, and they taking care of business, and then they come home and they take care of their family. And the black man running around pollinating everybody. We should have a structure. Look at nature, like a beehive. A beehive is structure. You wouldn't have nothing that wasn't for the bee. So if you pattern yourself and collectively go after something to sustain you and your environment, then you are doing what you are created to do. You have to sustain yourself. You cannot depend on another man to sustain you and treat you fairly.
Right.
Dennis.
Yes.
Charles Ahmad. Now, what is it that we need to do to make the change, to make things different? Now, yeah, we're saying things are wrong. I listened to all three of you. Now, Dennis threw something out there, and I think he wants to know, and I would like to know too, and the people out there need to know. Inquiring minds want to know. What is it that we need to do to make things different, to bring us, instead of from the back of the line, bring us up to the front of the line, or at least nearer the front in the next, let's say, next 25, 50 years?
Well, I'm going to jump in there and say fix the black family.
How?
By being responsible. Parents.
Charles, we can be responsible parents. Okay. The parents we have today, we're saying they're irresponsible. Why is it they're so irresponsible?
They're chasing the dollar.
That's all to it?
Well, they're chasing the dollar, and we're trying to live like they want us to live instead of living like we should live.
But look at the parents of today, how young they are. They're school kids. They themselves are still pretty immature. They don't have enough teaching to guide them as to how to. And if they're not getting the how is it they're going to pass it on to their kids?
They got to teach them the why and the how.
But who is going to do the teaching? That's where I'm coming from. Who is going to do the teaching since there is nobody?
Well, the community, we know our needs. We know our shortcomings.
Paget, if you read Ta-Nehisi Coates' June 2000 to July 2016 article on reparations, it was like a 3,000-word article in Atlantic Monthly. And he laid down the kleptocracy that existed in the South during Jim Crow, where a white man could literally steal your wealth out from under. He could take your horse. He could take your land, and there was nothing you could do. You had no recourse. He documented this all the way up to the north to Chicago primarily. He focused on Chicago, ironically enough. And he talked about how the kleptocracy manifested itself there, with banks not loaning capital to qualified black businessmen and women to open up stores, to open up entrepreneurial efforts, to buy homes. Then he documented the loss of jobs by deindustrialization and the deliberate destruction of the school system, the deliberate denial of the university system to open up their doors to these people who needed that training. The same thing could be said with the trade schools, deliberate destruction of those. You're left with the wasteland. You're left with people who see no future for themselves, living in abject poverty, surrounded by a hostile occupying force that we call the police, which is really no different than the occupying army. And then violence breaks out, and we say it's because the mama ain't there. They ain't got no pride. They ain't being raised right. If you don't look at the big picture, you're going to be confounded and confused. That's it. And I think we need to stop looking in the mirror and blaming ourselves for this misery and recognize the system that we live in and address how we can change the system so that it's more fair to people of color.
Well,
I agree.
Well, I agree with that. But anywhere you go in this world, you're gonna be black. So you can you know, if you think that one day somebody gonna say, oh, we all come in and we all can get along. No.
Ain't gonna happen.
You know, that ain't gonna happen. So, you know, it has to be. We have to take some responsibility for ourselves, and you know, I'm not going to go all into all these other things, but you know, for me, I blame, you know, the whole society and all of this, but we have to take some responsibility ourselves, and
Well, no one's saying you don't. No one's saying you don't.
That's the thing that you know, that we can talk about 200 years from now and all of that, but we still what we at, where 30% in Detroit finish in high school, 50% of blacks in New York finish in high school. You know,
And Michelle Alexander wrote an entire book about this called The New Jim Crow, where she documented how these people's schools are being destroyed and be left purposeless, and that they're comprising 60-70% of people who go to prison with people who are arrested for the same crime aren't even being put on probation. So let's not make it about us and what we don't
I
do.
just said, you know, anywhere we go, we're gonna be black, and so you can't forget that, but you have to.
Build on that.
Okay, but if you got pneumonia, if you got pneumonia, you can't say it's my fault that I went outside in the rain. You just go to the doctor and you get a prescription for what's going to fix you. So we got to stop saying it's our fault and we went out in the rain, and let's look at a way to fix it.
Well, it's not our fault, but we got the problem.
Yeah,
well,
so you got to do
obviously.
something.
So if you got the problem, you're not gonna get anywhere by misdiagnosing the treatment.
You got to try to do something about the problem.
You got to recognize that you're alcoholic to deal with alcoholism.
So you don't put a cast on your big toe if you're alcoholic. You treat the alcoholism, right? If you got pneumonia, you take antibiotics. So you don't hit yourself in the head with a brick saying it's my fault.
Right. So if you broke, you start businesses.
All right.
How much time we got, Patrick? It's time about
We got about a minute and a half.
Oh, okay. Let's
A little less than a minute and a half.
let's just.
But you know what? I like the discussion there. All right. And yes, we have a problem. We may not have created it for ourselves.
But we got it.
Somebody else created it, but we got it. And now, since they're not going to do anything to fix it, we have definitely got to do something to fix it.
Or get an antidote.
And part of being able to fix it is knowing our past. You know, if you don't know where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. And I think that's basically where Dennis is coming from. You have to know this in order to be able to address the present properly and move forward.
But see, I think we're out of time now. My name is Ahmad Shakaraka, and we catch you down the next block. More Street Talk. Peace.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.